right, welcome to Talking Investing. I'm Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, we're going to go through Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. I want to update what happened last week with the Bitcoin miners. We're also going to talk about this morning and what is ahead this week. There's a big data point coming out this week. We also had 3 Bitcoin miners give a press release and an update last week, so we're going to go through that as well. I want to take a look at the Bitcoin chart because something is happening. And then lastly, we'll take a quick look at some altcoins that took off last week. If you're new here, we talk about Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners all the time on this channel. So if that's content that you're interested in, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, if everybody could do us a giant favor and hit the like button, we're going for 300 likes. I want to thank everybody for all the likes we've been getting. It's really helping the channel out a lot. So with that said, let's get to Bitcoin. I want to start out with what happened with the Bitcoin miners last week. Okay, so last week was a spectacular week for the Bitcoin miners. Bitcoin had a good week. Percentage-wise, it was a nice week. You can see on this chart, as always, Bitcoin is in gold. It was up 5% on the week, so that was a strong week. But more importantly, it did break out of a pattern that it's been in. It broke through what we consider to be maybe a crucial line of resistance. We're going to take a look at that chart later. And with that, with Bitcoin up 5%, you'll see the Bitcoin miners had a fantastic week. 11 of the 12 Bitcoin miners that we follow outperformed Bitcoin, and some of them very significantly. So there was only one that underperformed, which was Core Scientific. I'm not taking too much away from that because when we get to the year to date, which we're going to do next, you're going to see that Core Scientific is the #1 performing Bitcoin mining stock on the year. So if it took a pause for a week, that's not really anything that I think is I'm not really viewing that as a start of a trend. I think it's just a little more leveling out. Okay, at the other side of the list, you're going to see we had some Bitcoin miners absolutely take off. We had Cypher up 42%, BitDeer up 18%, and Iron up 18%. So those were the top 3, and those 3 things had something in common. All 3 of those companies put out a press release last week. So you can see the market reacted very well to those press releases. We're going to go through those very quickly later. But we also had a lot of other Bitcoin miners do very well. You'll see HUT was up 17%, Bit Digital up 15%. Then we had a grouping here, Cleanspark and Bitfarms up 13%. Marathon, the largest by market cap, was up 11%. So you can take a look at the list, but it's all green last week. So that is encouraging. I will tell you, Monday morning, as I'm making this video, the market's not quite open yet. By the time you see this video, the market will be open. And we did have a little pullback Sunday night. So the Bitcoin miners are opening up in pre-market red. Obviously, we're going to take a look at that and keep our eye on what the Bitcoin miners do this week, but it's very early. Okay, so that was last week. Let's take a quick look at year to date. So as of Friday, that was the second last trading day of the third quarter of 2024. So bear that in mind as you take a look at this chart. This is basically the end of 3 quarters of the year. And you're going to see there's only 3 Bitcoin miners that are in the green, but this chart actually, believe it or not, is improving. So you see Bitcoin in gold up 56% year to date. So Bitcoin is having a strong year, although we are still within a 6-month window of Bitcoin basically going sideways. There are 2 Bitcoin miners that have outperformed Bitcoin. You're gonna see Core Scientific was in last place last week on a weekly basis, but like I said, they are still in first place year to date, so I'm not taking too much away from that. Core Scientific having a fantastic year, up 119%. TeraWulf is up 106% year to date. So those 2 are considerably outperforming Bitcoin. Then you've got Iron. Iron's been on a giant roller coaster ride. It is back in the green. It's up 24%. It was all the way up over 100% a few months ago. It pulled back all the way to in the red, and now it seems to be back on the move. And then we're going to see a couple of other Bitcoin miners that look like if we can have a good week, they will turn green this week. We got Cypher basically at 0% year to date coming into this week. HUT down 2%, Cleanspark down 8%. So we have a few more that are threatening to go green on the year. Now, obviously, that is not our goal to be up 1 or 2%. So, we're going to take a look at this and we're going to see what the fourth quarter holds. There's an awful lot of optimism around the fourth quarter. There was a lot of pessimism in September. It didn't really play out that way. September was a good month for Bitcoin. It was a good month for the Bitcoin miners. Obviously, today is the last day of September, so we'll see what happens today. But I want to go down to the bottom of this list. There's a few Bitcoin miners that are still dramatically underperforming. So Riot is at the bottom of this list, down 49%. So still very close to down 50% on the year. So from a stock standpoint, Riot stock has had a brutal run this year. It is lagging behind the rest of the Bitcoin miners quite a bit, but there's a few others that are still having a tough year. Marathon is down 26%. So Marathon's the largest by market cap, despite being down 26%. So that's having a tough year. Hive is down 26%. Bitfarms is down 23%. So as I look at these types of lists, and as I show you guys these lists, again, of course, please remember, none of this is financial advice, but what I'm trying to look at week to week is, are there opportunities in here? Is there a reason that those stocks are dramatically underperforming and that's where they belong? Or are they just lagging and their time hasn't come yet? We haven't rotated maybe into some of these yet. So obviously that's for you guys to decide for yourself. That's one of the reasons we try and take a look at as many charts as we possibly can. Okay, I told you that the top 3 performing Bitcoin miners last week all had press releases. So I want to go through those press releases because if you can remember, those 3 companies had fantastic weeks. Cypher put out a press release and they were up 42% last week. So this one took me a little bit by surprise because this seemed like a little bit of a humdrum press release, but there was one sentence in here that I think got the market's attention, and Cypher took off. Remember, they were up 42% last week. So this came out on September 24th. Cypher Mining announces the closing of its acquisition of Barber Lake 300 megawatt data center. So they had already announced that they bought this data center back in August. Here in September, they're announcing that they closed it, which is why I thought this was a little bit business as usual. But I have highlighted one sentence in here. They say, "We have already received interest in the site from multiple hyperscalers." So I think that really grabbed the market's attention. Not just that they bought this and closed on it, but that they have big interest in it already. So that was pointed out by one of our members, and that is something that I missed on the day that this came out. I want to thank our member for pointing that out, and I do think that that is one of the big reasons Cypher had such a big turnaround, and it was really the day of this release and the next day. Those 2 days, Cypher just absolutely took off. Again, up 42% on this news. Then we had Bitdeer. On September 26th, Bitdeer put this release out. Bitdeer completes testing of its latest CLO2 Bitcoin mining chip. So this is something that they told us back in June. They were going to release a series of updates on their own Bitcoin ASIC mining chip that they're making. And so here they say initial prototype tests indicate an exceptional power efficiency ratio of 13.5 joules per terahash. So that would make this competitive with the best performing machines on the market. Now, they're saying initial prototype testing is done. They're talking about rolling this out, I think, in November, mass production. So I'm not sure if they're selling this to the world. I would imagine they're going to be using this to enhance their own fleet. And they have 2 more of these updates coming. So in 2025, they're going to upgrade this chip 2 more times if they stay on plan. So one of the things is they talked about this back in June that they would be releasing this by the end of the 3rd quarter. So it looks like they're pretty much on target with this. It looks like the market liked this press release because Bitdeer was up 18% last week. Okay, and then the third one, Iris Energy, also up 18% last week. They put out this press release. Iron achieves 20 exahash milestone. And then the top line of this, on track for 31 exahash. So 31 exahash by the end of 2024. So Iron came into the year at about 5.5 exahash. They were targeting 20 exahash. They bumped that up to 30 exahash, and now they're bumping it up to 31 exahash. And they've already reached the 20 exahash mark. And they say in this press release that they're imminently going to get to 21 exahash. So they are growing their business. They're growing their Bitcoin mining side of the business rapidly. Earlier in the month, they put out a press release regarding the high performance computing AI side of their business. And they basically spent about $40+ million buying new machines, basically doubling that fleet as well. So they're operating on both sides of this equation. So Iron Energy has a lot going on. They had a fantastic week, and this was a big update. So if they can stay on track for that 31 exahash by the end of the year, that is going to put them in competition really with Cleanspark, which is targeting 37 exahash, Riot's targeting 32 exahash. So whereas coming into the year, Iron was nowhere near those 2 companies, it looks like, those companies, in addition to Marathon, which is targeting 50 exahash, those 4 really stand out as the 4 that have by far the biggest growth plans. Having said that, there are a lot of the other Bitcoin miners that have big growth plans. Some of them later in 2024 and a lot of them in 2025. So we'll continue to bring updates on all those as they come in. Quickly, I want to go through the Bitcoin ETFs because this was a big deal this week. At the beginning of September, including the last couple of days of August, the Bitcoin spot ETFs had an 8-day losing streak, 8 red days in a row, and the outflow in those 8 red days was about $1.2 billion. So the month of September started off in a very bad way. That basically confirmed everybody's fears that September was going to be a disaster. Well, things turned around almost immediately. At the end of those 8 days, we went positive. And here at the end of the month, we're now on a 7-day streak of having net inflows. The last 2 days of which, on Thursday and Friday, we had $365 million of net inflows on Thursday into the spot ETFs and $494 million, almost $500 million on just Friday. So in those 7 days, basically to close out the month, the Bitcoin spot ETFs had a $1.3 billion of inflow. So that $1.2 billion that seemed like a nightmare at the beginning of the month has basically completely reversed itself here at the end of the month. And it's one of the reasons why Bitcoin did have a little bit of a breakout. So since the inception of these spot ETFs, there's been a big correlation. It's not a one-to-one correlation. There are times that they act differently, but as these spot ETFs go, so tends to go Bitcoin. So this is why we keep a close eye on these ETFs and the inflows and the outflows. So corresponding with those inflows, you're going to see this is Bitcoin on the 1-day time frame. We really had a nice run up, and we also broke out of this grouping here. At the end of August, Bitcoin had about a 4-day streak in a row where it was just over $64,000. It candlewicked even higher than that, but on daily close, I put a yellow line here at around $64,300. So you can see last Thursday, and that was the first of the 2 big inflow days for the ETFs. Last Thursday and Friday, we broke out and closed daily candles above this previous high. So for the first time really in about 6 months, on a local basis, on the 1-day time frame, we have set a higher high here in Bitcoin. So this has made people extremely optimistic. Now we have to see, as you can see Monday morning here, at the moment that I'm making this video, we are having a red candle. We candlewicked down back to this grouping right here, which is really just where we were consolidating last week. So we'll see if we find some support there and turn around. We'll see what happens in the short term, but I am taking some optimism away, as is really most of the market, that we have set a higher high here locally. So of course, this is not financial advice. And the other thing is always to remember, I mention this in every video, the volatility is real. So just when you think one thing is happening, oftentimes the other thing happens. I want to remind everybody, coming into September, for the weeks heading into September, and then really the first week of September, we were calling it Rectember. Everybody thought it was going to be an absolute disaster, and what happened? Pretty much the exact opposite. So I would always be careful. There seems to be a lot of optimism growing right now. So sometimes in the short term, we get the opposite effect. And again, if we look at this another way, this is Bitcoin on the 1-day time frame. We are still stuck inside of this channel that we've been trading in for 6 months. Now, I will say people have this top line at different places. Some people have it all the way down to where we are in a breakout. I still feel like we're trading inside of this range, and we need to make the next move up to really get final confirmation that we're in that bull phase of the market and taking the next big leg up. So hopefully that's what comes next, but obviously we got to wait and see, and time will tell. But all in all, an optimistic week last week for Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. I'm going to just jump around. We don't usually talk about this, but I want to take a look. We did have some movement in some altcoins, particularly the meme coin types. Dogecoin is up 13% over the last 7 days. You've got Shiba Inu as of this morning up 27.8% over the last week. It was actually up even more than that. You've got Pepe up 36%. So those are really more of the meme coins, and they have been taking off, but some other coins have been doing very well that I just want to point out. There have been 2 coins that are definitely the most popular coins of 2024, and they seem to be taking off. Solana is up 9.4% in the last 7 days, so this has been absolutely the most popular coin of the year 2024. But the other one that I want to point out is Sui, which is up 15% basically in the last 7 days. And this coin is building a lot of momentum. These are the 2 coins that I see most people talking about. They have the most momentum of the larger coins, other than the meme coins that we just talked about. So we are starting to get some movement in some of the altcoins. I just wanted to point that out. We don't talk a lot about that on this channel, but I did want to add that. So that's it. That's what's going on with Bitcoin, the Bitcoin miners, and we did talk a little bit about the altcoins. So thanks everybody for watching. Again, if you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to the channel, and also please do us a favor and hit the like button. Give me your thoughts and comments below on where you think Bitcoin is going next, on what altcoin you're looking at. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.